Good morning and welcome to my channel. Today I will be discussing on an introductory topic to histopathology, which is adaptation, cell injury, and cell death. Every single day, the cells of our body are exposed to stress. The stress they are exposed to can lead to making some adaptations to survive. Sometimes these adaptations may not be enough, and this can lead to what we refer to as reversible cell injury. Other times, it can lead to irreversible cell injury, and this can lead to cell death. Today, we'll be discussing on adaptation, cell adaptation. What are the things a cell can do in order to cope with stress? Number one, there's what we refer to as hypertrophy. Number two, we have what we refer to as hyperplasia. Number three, atrophy. And number four, metaplasia. So the four adaptations we'll be talking about today is what we refer to as 1. Hypertrophy, 2. Hyperplasia, 3. Atrophy, and 4. Metaplasia. Let's quickly start with the first. Hypertrophy. What is hypertrophy? Hypertrophy simply means the increase in the size of a cell. The increase in the size of a cell. A cell that has a normal size, when exposed to some stressful conditions, can increase its size. Hypertrophy can either be physiologic or pathologic. Physiologic hypertrophy means what causes the increase in size is not a disease, whereas pathologic hypertrophy means it is caused by a disease condition. An example of a physiologic hypertrophy is what we see in bodybuilders. People who actually go to gym, you see that there's increase in their muscle mass. The increase in size of their muscle mass is an example of what? Physiological hypertrophy. Also, there's pathological hypertrophy. An example of pathological hypertrophy that you can always remember is what we see in hypertension or congestive cardiac failure also. In this condition, the heart is working very hard to pump blood to different parts or regions of the body. And as such, the ventricles, the muscles of the ventricle, the cells in the ventricles may increase their size, which we refer to as ventricular hypertrophy. This is an example of a pathological hypertrophy. Take note too that sometimes hypertrophy and hyperplasia may occur at the same time. Let's quickly move now to hyperplasia. What is hyperplasia? Hyperplasia is not just the increase in size. Generally, it has to do with the increase in the numbers of the cell. It is hypertrophy that is increase in size. Hyperplasia have to do with primarily increase in the numbers of the cell. If you have 2 cells before, it can increase to 4 cells because those 2 cells can no longer perform the work. They are under stress. So it can increase to 4 cells. These 4 cells cannot even perform a better work. You get? So that's what we refer to as hyperplasia. Hyperplasia can occur in normal physiological conditions. It can also occur in pathological conditions. Example of physiological hyperplasia, where you see a cell increasing its size, is what you see in the breast tissue. The breasts actually increase its numbers during puberty. A girl that has reached the age of puberty, you see that her breast increase in size. It becomes bigger than normal. And that's because of what we refer to as hyperplasia. There's increase in the numbers of cells within the breast tissue. So that's an example of a physiologic hyperplasia. Another example of a physiologic hyperplasia, for somebody who has, let's say, a disease affecting the liver, and some part of the liver has been resected, it's been removed. Now, in as much as 12 hours or more, you see that the liver has just started increasing its numbers, producing more cells. With time, you see that the liver has attained its normal size again. That's an example of hyperplasia, a physiologic hyperplasia. However, there can also be pathologic hyperplasia. Pathologic hyperplasia is what you see in something like endometrial hyperplasia. Normally, after normal monthly flow or period, you see that the endometrium increase the number of cells, the cells that are there. However, in pathologic hyperplasia, where you have endometrial hyperplasia, the endometrium will just be increasing the size will be increasing, and the numbers will be increasing. The endometrial cells, their numbers will be increasing. It will not have an end. You just be going, and that can lead to like what we refer to as abnormal bleeding, and can be a fatal way for cancer. So it is very important you know that hyperplasia is a fatal way for malignancy, for cancer, because cancer simply means an abnormal, uncontrolled, irregular growth of tissues and increase in their numbers. That's what hyperplasia can lead to. So just remember the point. Hyperplasia is a fatal way for malignancy or for cancer. That point being made clear. It is important to know that for cells that cannot divide, that's where you see hypertrophy. Hypertrophy occurs in cells that cannot divide, don't have the ability of dividing, but they are undergoing stress. So the ones that are available increase their size. However, for hyperplasia, it is found in cells that can divide, cells that are able to proliferate. That's where you majorly see hyperplasia. Next, let's move on to what we refer to as atrophy. What is atrophy? Atrophy simply means decrease in the size of some cells that are found in a tissue. The cells decrease in their size. This decrease in size of these cells can lead to what we refer to as decrease in functions. It can be physiologic. Some of them are normal, some of them are pathologic. For example, imagine somebody that is going to gym. He's going to gym every day. He has a very large muscle mass. When he stops going to gym for months, what happens? Those muscles undergo atrophy. We can refer to that as disuse atrophy, because the muscles are no longer exposed to the type of work they are exposed to, and so they reduce their size. That's an example of a physiologic atrophy. It is important too to note that this atrophy can be as a result of what we refer to as reduction in the blood flow to that particular organ. It can also be due to lack of innervation to that region. You know, when there's lack of innervation to a muscle, it undergoes atrophy. These are all things that can cause atrophy. Let's quickly move on to the last, hyperplasia. What is hyperplasia? Hyperplasia simply means metaplasia simply means a change in the epithelium or in the cells or tissue that's in one region in order to cope with stress. If there is stress in that region changes its epithelium, or it changes its cell to another cell that can cope with stress. That's what we refer to as metaplasia. A very common example of metaplasia is what you see for somebody who is smoking. A smoker, a chronic smoker, has the epithelium that is located in the large bronchioles and in the trachea being changed to another epithelium. Generally, in the trachea and large bronchi, you are going to see what we refer to as ciliated columnar epithelium. But for a smoker, this region is being exposed to stress, and as such, it will be converted to what we refer to as squamous epithelium, which can cope with stress. However, metaplasia can impose harmful consequences. This normal epithelium in that region can help to produce mucus and helps to remove debris from entering into the lungs. However, for somebody who has his epithelium be converted to squamous in the trachea and bronchi, this will not take place, and it can lead to even cancer. So this metaplasia, therefore, is a two-edged sword. Also, it is important to know that it is not just conversion of any other epithelium to squamous. Conversion of any other epithelium to squamous is called squamous metaplasia. But also, it can be conversion of squamous epithelium to columnar epithelium. For example, in what we refer to as the reflux of gastric fluid or gastric juice in the stomach into the lower aspect of the abdomen, into the lower aspect of the esophagus, we refer to that as what now? Gastroesophageal reflux. When there's gastroesophageal reflux, what happened? Take note, the esophagus has squamous epithelium, but the stomach has what we refer to as what? As columnar epithelium. When there's gastroesophageal reflux, the esophagus, the part that is exposed to that content of the stomach, will be converted to the epithelium of the stomach, which is columnar. So you are converting squamous epithelium to what? To columnar epithelium. That's columnar metaplasia. Also, there can be calcification of muscles. A muscle that is normally formed from a normal cardiac muscle or majorly skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle can be converted to a bone. There can be division of bone tissue converted into a bone. Calcification of muscles. They can pose in some injury. That's an example of metaplasia. All of these are an example of conversion of a tissue, of a cell, of a particular epithelium to another epithelium in order to cope with stress. This is an example. These are examples. There are different examples of what we refer to as metaplasia. These are the cell adaptations that we have. So in order for a cell to survive under stress, in order to cope, some cells undergo hypertrophy. They increase in size. Remember, an example of that is the muscle mass that you see in people who do workouts, physiologic. Example of pathologic, don't forget example of pathologic hypertrophy that you can see in hypertension, in congestive cardiac failure, where the size of the cells in the heart increase, just as they say in ventricular hypertrophy. We also talked about hyperplasia. Know the examples. These are the important things you see. And never forget that hyperplasia is a fertile soil for what? For malignancy. Then know that it is said that it's not dividing that majorly undergo hypertrophy. There are cells that have the ability to divide, majorly undergo hyperplasia. We'll keep on posting videos regarding to histopathology, chemical pathology, pharmacology in this channel. So please subscribe and like this video so that you can see more videos like this. Thank you very much. Till we meet next time, I remain Ebiagbo Jaswi, generally known as the Pigeon Doctor. Thank you.